one of the interesting things about that is that all of these areas are, among other things, areas where migration has continued to increase and joblessness has gone up. Now, just think of those two factors, anyone watching. You keep forcing immigration onto these areas, and you do nothing to improve the lot in these areas. Of course, nobody should be on the streets. The unbelievable hooliganism and thuggery of recent days should repel everybody.
We're diving right into the video of today, and this is titled Completely Appalling. Douglas Murray condemns riots raging across the UK. And you guys, this is on Sky News Australia. So let's dive right into it.
Let's start with the UK riots. Keir Starmer, the police, the media have all been clear who they blame for the unrest. The far right, they say, fueled by disinformation online. There's even suggestions of banning platforms like X and cracking down further on free speech. Is that the answer to what we are seeing, which are really clearly deep underlying issues in communities across the country, from places like Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Rotherham, Middlesbrough, London, and even as far as Belfast in Northern Ireland?
Well, yes, this all started after a young man, a 17-year-old, stabbed to death 3 girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance party in the town of Southport. And the sense clearly in the immediate aftermath of that, this is an observation, was that the authorities were withholding the identity of the suspect. Now, there are some reasons why they might do that, but obviously tensions locally were extremely high, feelings were extremely high, and the way to try to control the information obviously completely backfired, as you would expect it to. And that's led to these riots across city after city in the UK. It's extremely disturbing. These riots of themselves provoked counter riots where identifiably Muslim young men, some armed, have been also shown on camera attacking people in the streets. And this is really just a completely appalling, and I'm sorry to say this, completely predictable situation. Indeed, I can say it's predictable because I said exactly this sort of thing would start happening 7 years ago or so in my book, The Strange Death of Europe. It's horrible to be proved right in such circumstances because you don't want to be proved right about something like this. You want people to listen and change their policies. But, you know, the last few days have shown the Labour government refusing to concede that there is anything other than what they call far-right violence going on. They claim that there isn't a two-tier policing system in the UK, which everybody with their own eyes can see is not the case. Clearly, there is a two-tier policing system in the UK. These areas where this has happened in, what's more, are all areas where there were riots in 2011. And as I write in The Spectator this week, one of the interesting things about that is that all of these areas are, among other things, areas where migration has continued to increase and joblessness has gone up. Now, just think of those two factors, anyone watching. You keep forcing immigration onto these areas, and you do nothing to improve the lot in these areas. Of course, nobody should be on the streets. The unbelievable hooliganism and thuggery of recent days should repel everybody. But, you know, very often when there is some kind of violence or unrest, we hear political leaders and the wise heads in the commentariat saying we need to address underlying causes. Why has nobody said that in recent days?
And you're so right. Remember the media coverage in 2011, very different to what we're seeing now, and also throughout the BLM unrest that we saw not too long ago. Again, there was a great deal of sympathy for those who were behaving violently and certainly weren't peacefully protesting. Now, there are various segments of the left in the UK blaming X, formerly Twitter, for inciting violence. But Douglas, it's one of the few places where you can see what is happening on the ground without that media spin.
That's right, Rita. I mean, I've just seen a report from another so-called mainstream channel in the UK, where the quite clearly the journalists are trying not to reveal part of the story. What they're trying not to reveal is what they call Asian men in the area intimidating and harassing journalists. Well, these aren't, once again, you get back to the endless euphemism and lying that is just prevalent across our media. These are not, Hong Kong residents who have decided to go out and threaten people. They are, regrettably, organized Muslim groups. And, they're being whipped up by people, presumably in their community, but also by left wing and other activists, obviously by the people on the street as well, to come out in force. Now, the idea that the answer to that is to crack down on Twitter, X, is an absolute case study of the failure of the political class in the UK. I remember in 2017 when 3 Muslim men went across London Bridge, slitting people's throats and shouting, "This is for Allah." And the mayor of London and the then Prime Minister, Theresa May, came out and said that we need to address online radicalization. And then Theresa May set up somebody to look into the definition of extremism. What have they actually done in all of these years? Absolutely nothing. And it'll be the same with this. They'll lock some people up, and they will demonize all sorts of people, and they'll cover for others, but they will do nothing to address this. The British public have been begging for years for consecutive governments to bring down immigration and to increase opportunities in the UK. Not only were they not listened to, they were reviled, insulted, and much more. And, it also needs to be said, each of the towns in which these awful riots have been occurring are all places that are resonant with huge crimes that were covered up by almost everybody in authority. I'm thinking of what are called the grooming gangs, but are the rape gangs, which struck in Rotherham, in Rochdale, in town after town, whose names are back in the news now. And obviously, there's no excuse for the rioting. Why does nobody in government, and a Labour government at that, not listen to these people, at least find out what has gone so badly wrong in these areas that reports of who carried out this atrocity in Southport at the dance class for children, that could ignite a country? It doesn't suggest to me that the country is in a healthy state.
Where do we even start from? Isn't it so sad that we have to listen to Sky Australia for any common sense reporting? Thank you so much, Rita, for actually allowing your guests speak uninterrupted. This is not the norm these days. These days, we have to talk and struggle to even hear the guests speak, because nowadays, reporters are now clowning themselves as activists. So now there's no even room. Now interviews are now turning into debates. So thank you so much, Rita, for that. And this goes to show how bad the British media is when you have to listen to an Australian broadcast to see this kind of interview. And this whole situation about the riots just took my mind back to an interview that happened a few months ago where Vivek, and I'm talking about Vivek, Ramaswamy, when he made a statement, and he said that if you repeatedly tell people they cannot speak, that is when they scream. And if you repeatedly tell people that they can't scream, that is when they tear things down. And boy, oh boy, hasn't he been more correct. If it is true that only 36% of the London population are true Brits, then it's easy to understand why this is happening. Douglas Murray, in all of his interviews, has always referred to massive immigration as massive invasion, because he says these people are not migrating, they are invading. Now, you guys, people who oppose massive immigration were not listened to. On the contrary, they were actually, they were reviled and, called names. I understand that people are fed up with having no voice in their culture. Just waking up one morning and people are expecting you to change thousands of years of traditions for newcomers, coming into the country is just appalling. And I say this a lot. I'm like, it is not what they do before they come. It is what they do after they come that matters. Yes, you've always wanted to leave your country because, as I usually say on the channel, people have different reasons why they leave their country. But I know that if you didn't like where you were and you came here, then why do you want here to be like where you were running from or where you left? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And of course, we usually say this also: when you're in Rome, act like the Romans. Try to act accordingly. Try to respect the laws of where you are, because all of this is just a backlash. How for how long will they keep quiet? For how long will the West still be asleep? That's one thing we have talked about every single time on here. So, the British people, there is a need to actually get their country back. And this is one of the ways they're going about it. And you guys also, the reaction to the girls, that is just a spark of what people have been pissed about for years. This is what they've been pissed about for years. What is happening? And it's quite sad and unfortunate that these things are happening. You guys, what do you think? What do you think about the situation? This is my own 2 cents. What do you think about the situation? Let me know more about it in the comment section. As usual, I will see you right there.